everyone, and welcome to Crafternoons. I'm Miss Angela with the Indian Valley Public Library. Today we are going to be making something from this book here, and this is the Crayola Boredom-Busting Crafts. And I thought it sounded like a fun book, and it really is. So what's really cool about this book that we are going to be using today, it's written by Rebecca Felix, and it starts with some tips for crafting, and it talks about crafting safety. Make sure you check with an adult before using any material or tool in a new way to make sure it's safe to do so. Keep your workspace clean, work carefully. But here's some boredom busting tips. Use your imagination. Art supplies can be used to create endless creations, from simple to those that will keep you busy for hours. Have fun with mistakes. Did you complete a step in the wrong order? Is your craft not turning out? Have fun with it. Improvise. Make your mistakes into part of the craft. I love that tip. Keep the fun going. And it talks about once you're done with the craft, think about things you could change. Think about things you could add. Think about ways you can do it a little bit differently. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. So we are going to do this project here. And this project is called the This to That Mural. And what you're going to need is you're going to need a piece of paper, a pencil, a marker if you want to trace your lines, an eraser, something to color with, and random objects from your house. And what we're going to do is we're going to take random objects and we're going to make them into a picture. So here you see in this picture they used a spoon, a comb, a clip, a measuring spoon, this is a melon baller, a pair of scissors, and they made this ocean scene out of it. Now there's a couple ways that you can do this. You can either gather some objects from around your house, and one way to do it, they say, is by tracing one shape, get inspired by that shape, decide what you want to make, and just add the other items in. Or you can just trace all the shapes at once and turn them into a mural. Now what I chose is I chose to do the first aspect, which is I have my objects here. I have a pair of headphones, a plastic fork, a stapler, a hand sanitizer gel, a pair of scissors, and this little thing that just happened to be sitting on my desk. I'm not even sure what it is. So I thought it would be a fun thing to add. And I decided if I trace just the top part of my item here, my headphones, you don't even have to use the whole thing. If I traced just the top part, like so, and the inside, it kind of looks like an archway headed into somewhere. And I thought, well, look at my kind of boxy items here. I could probably make a city scene. So I used my one item and I said, well, this is how I can make this into a scene. Or you can do it another way. You can just trace all your objects and see what they turn out with. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to trace my other objects here. I'm going to start with my scissors. I'm going to put them right here. And again, I'm not even going to trace the tip. I'm just going to trace most of it because I decided I don't want the tip. I don't want this to be pointy. And that to me kind of looks a little bit like a tree. So that might become a tree. Let me trace my stapler next. I'm going to trace my stapler next, and because this is an archway, I don't want to trace over it. So I'm going to just trace up and around the stapler here. And that to me looks a little bit like a building. So I'm going to add actually, I think I'm going to finish tracing first. I'm going to put my fork right here. It's a little hard to trace that. And I don't think I'm going to go around the tines. I think I'm just going to make a big shape. I'm just going to go up around it. And I think to me that looks like another kind of weird shaped building, but I think that might be a building too. Now with this one, because your shapes are three-dimensional, You could trace it in any different way. So I think I'm going to trace mine like this to kind of go with my building theme. And there I have another kind of building shape. I could have traced that any different way. And then my little item here, I'm going to trace like this up in the sky. And this kind of looked to me like a sun. So I'm going to make it a weird shaped sun. So there I have the basic shapes that I started with. Now the other thing that's really cool about this, like I said, you don't have to trace the whole item. So I made an archway here, and I didn't trace the bottom parts of the headphones. I decided I think this is going to be a tree, so I'm going to change the outline a little bit to look more like a tree shape, because trees really aren't smooth like that. So I'm going to just make it more of a tree shape, and then I'm just going to go ahead and erase the outer line, the original outline. So I'm not necessarily staying with the original shapes, but it did give me the inspiration. So it's still kind of the rough idea of this shape, but I kind of made it more into a tree. Now, since I'm going with a building here, and this is my welcoming archway, I'm going to make this say welcome. And to make these look more like buildings, I'm going to give them a door and some windows. And again, these are going to be some more funny looking buildings. So I'm going to give them doors, and I'm going to give them some windows. And because I don't want my buildings to look like typical buildings, I'm going to give them some round windows too up here. I thought this would be a fun, these windows will be round. I think for this one, I'm going to start again with some more square shaped windows. But when I get up to this top part, I'm going to give us some round windows here. And now I have a sun here, so I'm going to draw just lines to make it look like a sun. So there I started with some random items that I had lying around, and I made an interesting picture. So now it needs a little bit of color. So I decided, so this was what I had just come up with, and I did one ahead of time just to show you kind of what it would look like for the final project. And I added some color, and again, because my buildings were not usual shapes, I didn't want to make them look like buildings I might see on the street, so I added a little more creativity with my colors. Now you'll see here that there was an interesting tip in the beginning of the book about mistakes, and when I went to erase some of my lines after I traced them, I accidentally erased part of my sign. But I decided I was going to leave it that way because then it looked a little weathered. So here I have some blurry lines here. But like the tip said, I embraced my mistake. I made it a little bit different than I had originally planned, and that's okay. So what I really like about this project, and what you can find too, is you can do it over and over and over again. So you can find different objects, or you can use the same objects and see how many different kinds of scenes you can make. You can do it the two different ways they recommend. First by drawing one object and getting inspired, then by drawing all the objects together. So there's a lot of different ways this one activity can really inspire you to do a whole bunch of different things. And if you do check this book out, and the link to find the book is in the description of this video, they also have for each project a QR code so you can see more examples of that project. So I think that's really cool because you can see different ways. This is just one example. This is another one, but there's a lot of different ways you can do this activity. So I can't wait to see what you come up with and have some fun busting your boredom with Crayola Boredom-Busting Crafts. Bye.